Challenge, distraction, competition, uncertainty. We faced it all in 2016. We were behind the market. Our clients demanded better. Many questioned whether we could deliver. Focus, determination, teamwork helped us rise to the challenge. A relentless desire to deliver for our clients helped us achieve excellence. The quality of our people shone through. But the market continues to evolve. We must innovate to keep pace. Each day brings new challenges. But with challenge comes opportunity. Opportunity to be the best. We have a plan. We have the appetite. We have the technology to help us transform. But it will require each and every one of us to achieve our objectives. Our story is shaping up to be a great one, and you are its main characters. So, it's time to decide. What role will you play?
Hello everybody. I hope you're enjoying your day. I'm going to give you an update on home creditor and regional broker development. So the good thing is that you should recognise some of the things I'm going to talk about. So if you were here last year, you might remember that I talked about insurer-hosted pricing, data enrichment, pricing sophistication and technical excellence. Well, I'm going to talk to you about all of the same things. But the good news about this year and what's different is that last year we were talking about a plan, something on a slide, something like this, or in several PowerPoints, or on a piece of paper. It was just written down. It was a plan, things that we were going to do. But the good news this year is that we've actually started to deliver some of these things and made some really good progress against them. You may have remember Laurent saying earlier that our household result in 2016 wasn't great. So unfortunately in PICP household at the moment, we are not yet profitable. Motor has started to turn a bit of a corner, and we're using all the same things for household and all the same tools that we used to turn around the motor results. So that's really good news. So insurer hosted pricing then, where are we with that? So we've already got some of the functionality delivered, which is really good news. We've got a cross-functional team which is working really hard to get all that stuff delivered and accelerate where possible. We've completed the foundation stage for the first software house onboarding. That will be CDL, and hopefully we'll get them live sometime around September, October this year. So I want you to look out for that and have a high five moment with the person next to you when you hear the news that that's happened, because that really will be a milestone moment for us in this turnaround journey. Part and parcel of IHP, insurer hosted pricing, will be data enrichment. Now, if you don't know what data enrichment is, I'll just let you know quickly. So there's a number of pieces of information we take into account when we're working out a price for a particular policy. We take the information that the customer tells us when they're answering questions, and we may have information about that customer ourselves from previously if it's a renewal. Well, with data enrichment, we can call out to other companies that have data on customers in order to use that data for the pricing and underwriting of that particular policy. That will be things like their credit history, for example, or in the case of the property itself, where it's located and whether that location's got any history of flooding or subsidence issues. And the good thing about that is that just helps us to get a more precise price for that very customer, and that enables us to be more competitive for more customers, and it also helps us to get more assurance around the fact that we're going to make a profit from that business as well. In terms of pricing excellence, we've been working for the last 15 months or so. A nod to India here, because those guys have been doing a lot of work on our pricing models, and up until a few months ago, where it was almost exclusively happening there. We have been told by external advisors, Willis Towers Watson, who are experts in pricing models around the personal lines market, that what we've got now is a top quartile model in the market from what they've seen, so I think we can all have the confidence that what we're going out with is something really good. Now, where we've got to with that is one of our brokers is trialling the new rates for us. So what that means is they've got our current rates, they've got what will be our new rates, and they're able to tell us, they're running that on their business side by side, and they're telling us what share of their business we would win with our new rates and what share we're winning with their old rates, so that we're able to understand the impact of our new pricing, which is miles more sophisticated than what we've got in place already. We'll do another couple of iterations of that, and then hopefully we'll go out with our new rates for real on that broker, BGL, about the beginning of August time, so not long to wait now. And believe me, that will be another high five moment, so listen out for news of that when you hear it. On non-standard, we've got a couple of accounts that are not performing particularly well at the moment. They give us sleepless nights from time to time, but those brokers have got a plan for how they're going to improve things, and we're watching them really closely to make sure that they're delivering on all of their commitments to us. That takes me on nicely to selective growth. So our non-standard book is a bit of a tale of two halves. So we've got some of the large accounts which are not very profitable at the moment, but we've got a whole load of other, the other half of the account is made up of niche business, smaller accounts, which performs really well and delivers a profit year in, year out. They are for risks like thatched houses, for example. We cover possessions and kit for the forces, and things like caravans. And that's the sort of business we're on the lookout for. So small, niche business where the broker has proven they've got expertise in their particular niche and they can deliver a profit for the insurer. On regionals, I was really proud earlier in the year to take on the responsibility for the regionals team. It's a small team covering the whole country and talking to our regional brokers to try and uncover new business opportunities with them. We really need to do two things there to make the most of that opportunity. We need to make sure that we're getting the development underwriting teams working really closely with the regional team in order to equip them with the knowledge and the tools and the skills that they need in order to be able to make the most of those trading opportunities. And the other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we've got a strategy that means we're always talking to just the right broker at exactly the right time, so at the time when they've got an opportunity for us. And because the team is so small, we can't afford to waste time talking to brokers that don't have those opportunities, because that's time wasted where we could be developing business. Now, the good progress that we've made on regionals this year has meant that on motor, in the year to date, we've written premiums of about 20% more than we did last year. And on home, we've written about 3% more on regionals than we did last year, which is a really good achievement when you consider the sort of really good growth proportions that Brendan was talking about in commercial. You can kind of compare it. So he was talking about good being about 3% in commercial, which is a less competitive market than personal lines. So I'm really pleased about that. That's all I wanted to say to you today. Hopefully you can draw the strands between what Laurent was saying about focus and transform, technical excellence, focus on profitability with what I've just told you, and look out for those high five moments in the rest of the year. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great evening as well. And bye to the guys watching.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Travel Corner. I am Nell, as you can see. Don't know why I have the picture, just to show that I have more grey hairs, I think. So Laurent showed you the performance, and you could see that we are basking in an almost green light. However, in insurance, I don't take anything for certain because next month it can be red. So we are still working really hard to maintain that position. So our 2020 strategy, we had quite a clear and have quite a clear strategy. At the moment we have Lloyd's like this, and then we have some other partners like that. That's very uncomfortable. Where we want to get to is that they are more evenly balanced, so that if something happens to Lloyd's, we don't rely on that much. And if it changes, that we can, the other schemes can sort of catch it up. So we need to diversify our portfolio. We made a really, really good start with Cover for You, which is a significant partner and also a really good first one. And the reason why it's really good for the first one is because it was a company we already dealt with under a different brand. So it was easy, we knew them. And they are an aggregator specialist, and we know how to write aggregator business. So we were delighted to have that very early win. Also, because we are the #1 travel insurer in the UK, what has actually been happening is that household names have come to us and said, would you like to be part of our tender? Which is great, isn't it? So we haven't had to go out and wine and dine and all those kind of things. People have come to us and said, would you like to be part of our tender? And with 2 of them, we are in the final stages. And this morning, another big brand name came in. So that is good that I didn't have to go out and wine and dine, which is one good thing. The other good thing is because the volume of requests that came in, we have to be able to be quite selective, because it would be no use to just sign up any partner and every partner, because that was our strategy, if those partners aren't the right partner, if they don't align to our brand values and if they don't align to our objectives, it's going to be no use. So we have been able to choose carefully which brands we wanted to go forward with and which brands didn't really fit our proposition. So yeah, so far really, really good. What also has happened with engaging with those partners is that we've realized that the travel market is superbly competitive, and also what are the requirements. And what the partners really state is it has to be simple, it has to be digital, it has to be customer focused, there have to be gadgets and twinks and things like that. So we've learned that, but also we realized that actually most of it we already had. We already have a really good proposition. We look after our customers extremely well. So yeah, our strategy, we will continue to make things simpler, otherwise we won't win any deals, more efficient, and absolutely focus on digital. Travel insurance is a really low premium product. For £5–6 you can pick up a policy, and that's a trip policy. There's no retention or anything like that, and the aggregator will probably take most of the commission. So the margins are very, very fine. Therefore everything has to be very slick, very simple, very digital. And as I said, make sure we choose the right partner, not just any partner. So to achieve all that, we have some priorities and some things we look at. So first, claims. You heard Chris talk about claims and online claims in travel, which is indeed a really, really great success from a customer perspective and also for the claims handler. If you sit next to a claims handler who does an offline claim versus an online claim, is totally different. Offline claim, phone call, you have no idea what the customer is going to claim about, what they're going to say. Online claim, you get all the information, the handler can look at it, the handler can make some decisions, they can write down the questions they want to ask, they know whether it's a fast track claim or not, and therefore the conversation with the customer is far calmer, far more adult really. So it's a really good thing, and customers really appreciate it as well. But what has happened is, for instance, customers can upload documentation. They're really excited about this, so they upload their documentation and then they think, wow, I have done this. And they go on the phone and say, have you seen, I've uploaded my documentation, this is great, isn't it? What are you going to do with it? Totally different operation than the traditional operation. Throw in some IT problems and basically the claims team is imploding, so we just need to give them some time to reshape themselves to the new world. Operating model. Travel is quite different from household and motor. Household and motor, when you talk to a broker, they say, we want to service, that is our brand, that is how we look after our customer. Travel, they say, thin margin, niche, can you do it? So in AXA we have Sandpiper, which can do certain things, but lots of other things it can't. What it can't do is do multi-brand, multi-product, multi-everything, flexibility, all those kind of things Sandpiper is not so good at. Luckily enough, we had already a strategic relationship with David Oliver Associates. They have a system that we know, because they have proven it, can do all those things. So we've worked with IT and we've now come up with a configuration where David Oliver's system can go into the Ipswich operation for the sales and servicing, but still link to Sandpiper for the claims. And that is what we are proposing to all the new partners. So it is the best of both worlds, and it also means we can use the Ipswich operation for servicing, which I'm really delighted about. Digital, I already said, it is really, really vital to have a digital proposition. Part of that is having a travel app, and I'm delighted to say that by the end of next week, I think it's going to be, we will launch our own travel app. So that means that customers anywhere in the world will be able to see where their nearest AXA recommended hospitals are. They'll be able to note down their emergency details. They will be able to look at the latest FCO information. There even is a jet lag calculator based on their own sleep pattern of when and how you should sleep and things like that. So yeah, end of next week, we'll let you know. I want lots of downloads, please. Data. Travel and data, historically, not so, because we had highly banded ranges, very few rating factors, and the biggest rating element, if it was medical, was really done by Helix. Oh, I'm going far too slow. So we have changed our rating, we have got some data from Helix, put it all together, and the data scientists will now look at that to see whether we can differentiate on some different rating factors. Policy wording. Policy wording, although travel is a really cheap product, actually the cover the customers get is really, really wide, from medical, baggage and all those kind of things. Policy document had expanded quite significantly. We've ripped it off, literally, started again, combined things, threw out a Sonic bank, talk about ash clouds, all those kind of things. And we now have a new policy wording, much slimmer, much more customer focused, signed off by legal, taken to the FOS, signed off by compliance, now taken to Fair Finance, should be implemented by October. One team, one of our biggest USPs, travel, everybody is in Ipswich. It's claims, it's underwriting, it's relationship management, it's a cockerel, and it is operations. So we really make the most of that and need to make the most of that to continue our journey to be a market leader. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Neil Mercier. I'm going to talk to you about the motor part. So I've got two parts to this. One, I want to give you a sort of three-part story about exactly where we are right now, and then I want to give you a bit of a vision for the intermediary motor and how we're building a portfolio of products. So the three-part story of where we are right now is things were going pretty great. As Laurent said in his speech, we were smashing it. We're heading towards this year being the best year that we've had since anybody can remember. And the curves and all the stuff like that, our loss ratio was looking pretty good. That was the payoff of all the really hard work and the investment we've had in the last few years in that. But the second part of the story was that Ogden thing came along, and that's messed us up. We had a whole load of claims that have gone up in value, and we've really got to pay for those. So the third part of the story is then, okay, how do we react to that Ogden piece? So we've had to put our prices up and try to recover some of that money. Now, that has changed our competitive position. So we've got an underlying piece on car, particularly where we think we're really making money, but we're not making the sales and the growth that we really want to. So our number one action right now is working on a whole list of things to try and generate some growth and generate some extra business this year, because we feel as if we're actually making money and this is the right sort of time to be growing the account. So that's a different story what you've heard for the last couple of years. You know, this is about growing motor because we're confident in exactly where we are. So it's not about elephants and not about things being broken, it's about things really working. The second thing I really wanted to talk about was the vision and what we're trying to do in motor in terms of a portfolio of products. So 3 years ago, we had 3 things in our motor account. We had motor, home, car and bike. Now, motorhome was pretty small and bike we were struggling with to a degree. So all our money was on the car bet. So we've invested in that and tried to make it work. At the same time as that, we realised just how difficult a market that is and how we're always going to be limited to a degree because we have to compete with some huge, very resourceful people like Admiral and Hastings and DLG and those sorts of people. So we decided to spread our risks a little bit and to try to move into several other areas in the market. So we've got a portfolio and we don't always have to rely on one particular thing. So I'm just going to talk you through the 6 segments we've now got in our portfolio. So bike, which is Brian's baby. It's a tough place to be, bike. Unfortunately, this year's not going to be a great year. We started very badly. We had a very large loss in the early part of January from a lady riding her bike in January, which is a very unusual in lots of different ways. But we're really turning the corner on bike. We really are starting to see, for the first time in probably 4 or 5 years, starting to see really good price increases. The underwriting action we've taken, getting rid of some partners, making changes to the sorts of bikes we're underwriting, and we're actually confident we're going to end this year in a much better place than we started, and we're looking at 2018 with our fingers crossed. We talked a lot about car, so car is still the main part of our portfolio, and we've got IHP and data enrichment, all those things working. Unfortunately, we're not in the place we were a few years ago where we got all the attention and all the resource and all the IT our way. So we're now having to share with other people, and household are getting some of the attention, and lots of other people are having to have work on their parts of their accounts. So we're standing still to a degree with we don't make as many price changes as we used to, and we are not getting quite the investment. So we're always going to be banging the drum and making sure that we got that. Now, niche car, we started in 2015. We had no non-standard business, and we decided that's where we're moving. We're at about £30 million this year in that. Now, we've got a whole raft of different things in niche car. We've got some modified cars, you know, if you want a car that's about 2 inches off the ground, that's got big wide wheels and it's really funky. We've got a little bit of that. We've got all sorts of different schemes, some of which are going really well and some of which are not going so well. So the job is to sort of make the ones go well grow. So we've got a very successful scheme for Polish people, which is going really well. So we're growing that scheme. Our scheme for 999 scheme for policemen and firemen, that's not going so well, so we're shrinking that scheme. They don't drive any better apparently than everyone else, so they don't quite just deserve the discount. Motorhome, always brilliant, always great. Buy a motorhome, that's my message. Buy a motorhome, buy a policy from us. That's what I say to everybody. Telematics, so similar sort of time scale as the niche car. We looked at telematics and said, okay, this is a market we want to be in. Lots of our intermediaries wanted to do that. Our first partners and our first love in that was a company called Drivology. As I've said to all the groups so far, you don't always end up with your first love, do you? And we've decided to part ways, and that divorce has gone through now, and that business is running off and has much less influence on our account. So we've got 6 different telematics partners, one of which is My Policy, which is for young drivers, 17 and 18-year-old drivers. They pay a lot of money, about £1,600 a year for their insurance, so that's growing quite quickly, and we're very happy with the way that looks right now after a little bumpy start, but I think again that will be an area we'll continue to grow in the next few years as we try to understand the data and understand what it means for that. But at the moment, tentatively showing the first good signs for a while. And our new baby, our new kids on the block, van. So we've inherited the van account from a couple of different parts of the rest of the AXA empire. So there was some in AXA Direct ABI and there was some in CLI, and we've inherited both of those. Now we're just trying to crunch that together and understand that. That's only just happened. What we would really like to do is get some investment in that and bring some of the or the developments that we've used in car, like IHP and data enrichment, and you know, really good underwriting rules, and bring that to van. it's had 2 or 3 years of unprofitability, but again, it's just turning in the corner. It's a very similar story to Car, one of their biggest brokers, Gladiator, which is owned by Admiral. They've decided they don't want to be a broker anymore, and they've taken that as direct. So we've got similar sort of GWP challenges, which leaves me with about 30 seconds for questions.
How do you mentioned data enrichment?
Yeah.
How do you think the GDPR legislation coming in is going to impact how we price things and our data that we have?
So I don't think anybody really knows exactly how it is. So I don't think things like data enrichment are likely to change, because if you've got the right sort of permissions, you can do those sorts of things. Where there may be more sort of challenge is the requirement to forget some data and delete data. So the longer term, especially on something like household, and there's a big argument, you know, if you're only allowed to keep data for 5 years and there hasn't been a flood for 5 years, you can't remember where floods and where doesn't flood. So those are the sorts of points where it might be tricky. But we'll keep on top of it.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome along to the Ops Info Station. So Claire and I are going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes just going through everything that we have on the go in terms of the operation piece, some of the key activity that we've done so far year to date, and some of the stuff that we've got on the go for outer years. So in terms of what we do as an operation, everything that we do is focused around the customer. So be that the broker through the PLI piece or the end customer within the corporate partner space. Everything, all our processes, all our engagement is driven to deliver that excellent customer service that we want to deliver and the customer expects. We have 2 main areas that enable that to happen. The first one is our people. So we are a big people department. We're spread across 3 floors within Ipswich, and we have an awful lot of foot traffic within the departments. Additionally, running alongside that is our technological advancements. So we have a variety of systems that operate within the department. Some of those work really well, some of those are a bit old and tired, and we're looking to progress and develop. So we're always looking to move those systems forward and to get really effective processes in place to support what we need to do to deliver to our customer. So Claire's going to give a very quick overview in terms of numbers, and then we'll start to talk about some of the activity that we've got on the go.
Okay, so we are a complex department. We have about 300 heads, just under 250 FTE, and we work between 8 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock at night, and we do that 7 days a week. So that makes us complex by itself. We have over 1 million contacts coming in to us a year, and that could be from telephone, post, email or web chat. And in addition to that, we work with a number of different products, over 3 product lines, but we have over 40 products that we will deal with. So all of that makes up 6 different departments that makes up Ipswich operations. You can see that starts to get really complex. So what are we doing? So there's a number of different things that we've done in Ipswich to enable engagement and to enable technological advances. And some of the stuff we've done in engagement this year has been around our people and their work-life balance. Attrition was starting to get quite high. And when we looked at some of the reasons for that, it's because our customers were demanding more out and out of hours services. That meant people on shifts were working more unsociable hours. We resolved that by putting in place a weekend team. So we've recruited a whole team of people for our Lloyd's department, and because of their lifestyle, they actually want to work weekends and evenings. That team has enabled us to reduce unsociable hours for full-time staff by about 50%, so it's been a massive win for us. Another people element that we've done this year is our Smart With Your Heart campaign. A couple of years ago, we employed a medical team to increase the number of customers we could service and give a better service for their medical needs. That team identified they could not only help our customers, but they could also help our staff and their colleagues as well. So they ran a campaign called Be Smart With Your Heart, and it's something that continues to grow, and we're doing more and more stuff with that, and it enables people just to live healthier lives. And it actually won an award this year at the National Contact Centre Awards for Best Employee Health Programme. So a couple of things that we're really proud of that we've done so far this year.
In terms of technological advancements, probably the biggest thing that we've done this year is the creation of our speech team. So that is a functionality that's driven off the back of our telephony, and it enables us to get a really granular insight into the contact that we get within the department. So we have 1 million contacts a year. The bulk of that is telephone traffic. So understanding why customers contact us and how that customer journey goes at an individual call level is a really powerful tool for us. So far this year, the guys have done probably about 8 campaigns focusing in different areas of the operation and have driven a load of conclusions. Some of the things that have come out of it are things that we suspected, some of the things is confirming what we already knew. There's also been a couple of curveballs, and all of this has generated a good level of discussion in terms of how do we then address it, how do we make that customer experience better. So that will then, as we go through the rest of the year, feed into process improvements, into training, into coaching, just to ensure that we keep that loop going in terms of our understanding of what happens within our department and then developing beyond that. Additionally, from a technological point of view, as we get towards the end of this year, we'll be upgrading our telephone systems. So we'll be moving to a Verint 15.1 platform, which gives us a lot more capability and functionality in some of the tools and activity that we're able to drill down and use. So one of the really interesting bits that we're working on at the moment is around workforce planning automation. So we're talking to a couple of companies that can sit over and above our telephony system, and then they'll have the tool that they use generates an understanding of exactly what's happening in a live environment, and then you can build rules into it that enable the system to then take certain activity in terms of workforce planning and scheduling, which makes it much more dynamic. So for example, if we're going for a quiet period and the call volumes unexpectedly reduce down, we can then start to put through to the frontline guys more bite-sized coaching, or bring forward one-to-ones, or change break areas and things. So it is something that enables us to be much more flexible about how we use and how we get the off-the-phone activity into our daily schedules. In terms of development, usually the buzzer goes at this point, so we're going well. The two aspects of the development side, so the development of our people is absolutely fundamental. So we have an active piece of work going on at the moment to improve the technical capability of our frontline staff. So we're using our technical underwriters to be out more visible on the floor, to provide that on-the-job coaching. And that coaching and upskilling means that the customer journey is much more comprehensive, and it has less inroads into the operation. So less referrals into our tech underwriting unit, less referrals into the team leaders and the floor walkers, which makes it a much more efficient service and a much better service for the customers. Additionally, we have a series of development programs to support progression within the department. So there are 4 live programs at the moment. AIM is Aspiring into Management, which identifies identifies people who want to go into the management line and develop into the team leader community. We have Evolve, which are people that want to probably progress outside of the department and give them more bespoke support and development. T2, which is our support function, so people who wish to progress into training, into underwriting, into workforce planning, etc. Then finally Lead, which is developing our level 5 population, which in particular has been really successful. We've got about 75% of the people that have been through that program have already progressed before we've even got to the end of the program. Final bit I want to talk about is communication, because Lauren will kill me if I don't. So we are a big, clunky department, so we need to have really good, effective communication in place. So Lauren's been championing the communication strategy over the last 6 to 8 months, and just challenging the way that we engage with our staff, the way that we communicate. Historically, we would just send an email out and assume that that's the communication done. It's now been much more interactive in what we do, and it's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so hello India. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Robinson, Head of Pricing. What I thought I'd spend the next 7 or 8 minutes talking to you about is our vision and our transformation towards 2020. So you can all read, I'm not going to read that out to you, but the key part of it to me is to move towards a data-driven department means we've got the right software, the right tools and the right people in place in 3 years' time. I'm going to come back to the 6 enablers for that vision shortly, but firstly, I thought I'd just talk about the last year and the big successes we've had as a team. So I'll start with motor. You've heard from Laurent, and I expect you've been to Neil's station already. Undoubtedly, the performance has improved on motor. The underlying trends are looking really strong. Ogden's come into play, a bit annoying I guess, but that's market driven, but underlying we're looking really good. Why has that happened? I believe the peril rated models that we've released are a key part of that. The IHP platform is a brilliant thing. The rest of the market are behind in that space. The data enrichment we've now got in place is working for us really well, and our MI, whilst very entry level, is better than it was a few years ago, so we can make some more intelligent weekly decisions in that space. So motor, I would say, tick. Household. So I guess the best summary I can make of household is we spent a lot of time focusing on motor, and our eye was taken off the ball a little bit on household, so I guess a lack of pricing resource in that space over the last few years has contributed to the 2016 and 2017 deterioration in performance. So what have we done about it? Over the last 15 to 18 months, we've spent, I think it's now over 17,000 hours, largely from the team in India, building a really good set of underlying peril models. It's been a massive eye-opener for me. Everybody says the UK motor market is the most sophisticated in the world. I disagree. Household is far more complicated from a pricing perspective. We've had to build over 40 different models for household, given the different types of claims you can have and the different levels of cover that are at place, whereas for motor it's probably 8 to 10. The weather's quite important on household, which means we need, 100 or 200 years worth of data looking at weather patterns, so we can build some reasonable models to predict flood, freeze and storm. So really tough. I'm really excited. The models are going live hopefully in July, possibly in August. I'm confident, given the motor success story, that it's going to be a similar picture on household. So into non-standard. You've heard that the Prestige account moved elsewhere about 6 to 8 months ago. We spent a lot of time this year looking at the Avantia performance. That's the largest remaining broker. Hasn't really worked for us over the last year or two. However, they have deployed themselves a new pricing model, and my team are looking quite deeply into that, to whether we think it will move in the direction that AXA requires both this year and next. Finally, both my favourite and least favourite topic, I guess, is data and MI. We're not where we need to be on that, but I need to recognise the amazing effort and contribution from the team over the last year to try and get something in place that means we can understand the changing mix of business and our conversion rates by key rating factors. So back to the vision, the really exciting part for me. There's 6 enablers in my view for that. Number 1, data science. So I guess a bit of a buzzword, means different things to different people. What it's meant for my department is bringing in people from outside of insurance, outside of traditional pricing teams, to bring in different ways of doing things. What have we learned? We've learned the models in the machine learning space are undoubtedly more predictive. They are more efficient as well. The 15 to 18 month household project would be significantly faster if we deployed these techniques. But there is a but, which is enabler number 2, which is control. The output of these models is very difficult to describe. So at the moment, all of our rating is table-based, so I could explain the difference in price for a 50-year-old versus a 30-year-old. If you deploy a machine learning model in real time, you will not know what price change is about to happen. I won't be able to go to Carolyn and Neil and describe that. So I guess in an industry that's heavily regulated, where compliance is extremely important, that's unacceptable at present, but we're trying to find a way to make that work because we need it to work. Information platform. So we now receive in excess of 30 million motor quotations per day. With household IHP about to go live, that's only going to grow. We've got no idea by how much, but I guess it could be exponential. And we use more than 4,000 factors to build our underlying model. So the data's grown that way and that way. Whether it's big data or not, I don't know. Don't really understand that term, but it's bigger than we can cope with at the moment. And we need it on a server or platform. That means my team are spending more time building models and analysing data rather than struggling with it and questioning its integrity. Key one for me. So non-standard. If you look at Laurent's 2020 strategy and plan, over 30% of motor and household business is going to be in the non-standard space, whether that be, I guess, niche motor, telematics, high net worth, household, landlords, business, etc. Resource allocation in my team in this space at present is extremely limited. If we're to support the strategy and plan, I need to find a way to transfer some individuals across to try and add some pricing value to those accounts to ensure they work as they grow. Working environment. So bringing in some data scientists, I guess, as I said earlier, has been a bit of an eye-opener for me. What do they need? They don't care whether they've got a desk or not, which is a first for me. People used to care whether they sat by the window or not, but my data scientists don't. What they do care about is being able to connect to people across the group, being able to share screens, share code, share whiteboards for ideas, move into little huddles in, I guess, innovative areas where they can learn together. We haven't got that in place at the moment, but unless I can support them, we're not going to be as effective as we could be. Finally, the value that's most important to me is one AXA. I'm not the only pricing team in the UK or across the AXA group. I'm not the only data science team in the UK across the group. We're all evolving, we're all trying new techniques, we're all making mistakes, we're all having a few successes. Unless we collaborate, we'll fail, I think, because we are a multinational company. That should be a big advantage for us, but we're not harnessing that at present, and we need to get there quite quickly. So just to close, I think I've got about 40 seconds. Next year, key items. Number one, we will widen our reach. A bit more support for non-standard. Stability. I need my data in a place that works. And technical brilliance. I've got a brilliant team already, but we need to continue to evolve and continue to try new ways of doing things, because I know my peer group are. That is all. Thank you very much.
In case there's anyone here that doesn't know who I am, I'm Angela Silva. I head up the electronic trading function for PICP. So what does that mean? What it means is we're a support function. We don't do anything new or sexy or clever on our own. Everything we do is in support of Carolyn for household and Neil for used to be private motor, but will now be private motor and commercial vehicle as well. That's not too much different because my team has been supporting commercial vehicle for the last 15 years. It'll just mean that we do that for Laurent instead of for John Walker. But as I said, everything we do is about supporting motor and home in their delivery of the 2020 strategy. Probably the biggest part of that for the last 5 years has been the delivery of IHP. Now, does everyone know what IHP is? Yeah? I don't need to tell you what that is. Mega, mega important. Motor are well down that road. They're in their final wash-up of a couple of partners left, whereas poor old household are up to their elbows in delivering it for the first time, starting Q3 this year. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm under no illusions. When I say we're supporting that, my team does this much, and at any time I'll have one person working on it. So we do this much. Pricing, IT and underwriting do this much. They'll have a whole team working on it, but we're just a support function. We're just supporting like the back end of it. Very, very exciting, and sometimes can get quite hairy. The other thing that we're doing, particularly on household, well, no, only on household actually, not just particularly household, is supporting the delivery of improved data. So you heard Brendan, Chris, Laurent all talk about escape of water. That has been quite a challenge getting that in. First of all, getting the question sets changed. So the software houses are asking how many bathrooms have you got? And then B, getting that data in from all of our partners. They all send it in slightly differently. Finding ways to get it onto our system has been quite a challenge. We've still got a few gaps, but I think even when those gaps are filled, there'll be more data that's wanted somewhere. And that's fine, that's what we do. That's our day job, if you like. On top of that, we will support the delivery of new deals, new partners, some tenders, less so that much. We're not seen as much of that of late because everyone is so busy doing the top two. But the real day job, the day in, day out day job, is what I call keeping the EDI engine running, and that is having our heads under the bonnet of a car, keeping the volumes going through our systems in a clean way, no failures or less failures, and in a timely way as well. Now, when you think that this year we'll probably see about 3.8 million to 4 million transactions over the year, all we need is one partner to have a little bit of a wobble and do something different that they haven't told us about, and all hell will break loose, and it does from time to time. That's our job, to keep that engine running. A good example of that, last week, one of our household partners told us on Thursday afternoon. Now, this partner, we send them claims and renewals information on a day-by-day basis, and every day we collect their transactions from them. Thursday afternoon, they told us they were changing their firewall with effect from Friday night, and we'd have to change everything to match that. Now, AXA Tech requires 1 to 2 week service level. There's no way I can get those changes implemented. I raise the change immediately, but I just have to sit and wait for it to be delivered. And then blow me, if Monday they ring and say, where's our renewals? Well, you've just switched off your system, and so we had that whole thing. And then when we got connectivity back up, don't ask me why, I don't know. Not only did they send us July's data, but by the way, they threw in a file from May as well. We'd already processed it, we'd already seen it. Now, my team's job is so our systems will highlight that, and our systems will say, we've had 3,500 transactions from this partner that's a duplicate, but someone's still got to investigate and find out why. So that's a bit of a challenge, but keeps us in a job. I'm not complaining. It gets a bit excitable, but I'm really not complaining. And the other big thing there is, in our shift in our strategy away from the same old of standard products, standard schemes, as we move into the non-standard schemes, particularly around motor, and less so on household, but particularly on motor, that can be a bit of a challenge, because externally, we haven't built non-standard broking systems. We haven't built non-standard products out there. We've put non-standard products into kind of standard products and sending them through the standard pipeway. Now, that will take some time for us to improve on the quality of some of that data, and also find innovative ways to get them up onto Sandpiper. But again, that's part of supporting the non-standard strategy. Another challenge around that, though, is even with partners who have standard products, some of our partners, no names, do it in a bit of a non-standard way, and to some extent they're not able to change their system, not willing, whichever, really doesn't matter. But for no reason at all, they'll suddenly start sending us data slightly differently. Now, some of these partners are big enough that they will just tell us to lump it. So we have to find ways to get that system up, because if it's motor, for example, we really could be in a bit of a pickle if we've got motor policy holders on the side of the road being stopped by the police because our systems haven't got their policy information. But it's the day job, it's what keeps us in a job. I'm certainly not complaining about it, and no 2 days are ever the same. This is an interesting one. If anyone had told me 3 to 5 years ago that from 2016, 2017, some of our biggest partners will switch their IT systems, I'd have said you were mad, and I'd have taken your money and I'd have a bet with you. Glad I didn't, because I'd have lost. So in the last 18 months, we have seen and are seeing Swinton move away from their Swinton Pack system to a brand new system on CDL. Never thought I'd see that day. We're seeing Saga move from Tier to Guidewire. Never thought I'd see that day, because as long as I've known Saga, they've used Tier. A-Plan, never thought we'd see A-Plan move systems, because every time our partners move, it costs them time, money and resource, and it's distracting their business. And then, never thought I'd see Ensley move away from their bespoke system to a package, which effectively is what they're going to be doing starting in September, is it right? Start in September. Now, they've used a bespoke system as long as I can remember. And I was buying motor policies when I was a student from them probably when before your mother was born, but never mind about that. So it's a really interesting time at the moment. And we all know, because we've been through it ourselves, just how big a deal it is for any organisation that switches from one IT system to another. And our job is to support them in that transition. At the same time as that is all this glorious IT regulatory change. I've lost count how many IPT changes we've done in the last 18 months. Totally lost count of it. I haven't lost count of how many flood deliveries we've done. 3. 3 so far, more to come.
Thank you.
Any questions? That was a very, very quick run through. Any questions? Thanks everybody. Cheers.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you. They made a film about us. Isn't that cool? It is cool, isn't it? Thanks to the marketing team and Harriet, she's somewhere in the room, for doing that. The only thing I objected to was the music. I wanted to use my own music as usual, but they wouldn't let me. Have you seen the film Wonder Woman, the new film? The music is awesome, so I wanted to use that, but I offered to go on stage wearing a cape and bracelets and tiara and everything. They wouldn't let me. Anyway, welcome to this summer conference. A special welcome actually to our team in India. We're filming for them, so I hope you find this useful. I'm wearing 2 microphones, 2 of them, see? That is show business. So who wasn't around last year? Who wasn't at the summer conference last year? Okay, so quite a number of new faces. Last year we did the do at the Ipswich Rugby Club. This year we're at the Ipswich Football Club. Where are we going to go next year, David? Is that a cricket ground in Ipswich? No, cricket is not a proper sport anyway, so it works every time. I love it. Just realised that joke is going to go down really well in India. Sorry, guys. It's just a joke. Right, moving on. So I'm only going to show you 3 slides. 2 of them to talk about the group, because I realised that I'm constantly asking you to stay really focused on what we have to do, so we probably lose a bit of perspective. So I'm going to talk about the group, and Brendan will talk about AXA Insurance a bit later to give you the bigger picture. So in the group, we've got now a new group CEO, Thomas. He's been in his role for about a year, I think. He did a presentation a couple of months ago, and he used a number of slides, 2 of which I'm going to show you. The first one is, I think is quite good. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. If you've got questions, Slido, you've got the link, and password is that sign that young people use and PICP. So first, this slide is a good summary of where we're coming from as a group. I really like it. Talks about our purpose. Might sound obvious, but it says empower people to live a better life. It's a bit convoluted, but it's about giving people peace of mind, basically. I think we can relate to that as an insurance company. Our values, I'm not going to dwell on that. We've talked about the values already. They're simple, they're effective, we can relate to them. I think we like it and we live by them. Our vision, so you're going to hear that phrase probably increasingly. I know Thomas is very keen on it. It says from payer to partner. Again, it might sound a bit clunky. I think the idea is to say, well, we're not just here to pay. We shouldn't be here just to pay, to send a check to customers when they lose their luggage or get broken into. Our proposition should be wider than that, and our relationship with our customers should be better than that. You replace that phrase with trust and transparency, which has been our sort of agenda in the UK for a number of years, and it's the same idea. And finally, Thomas sort of simplified how we go about doing all this, talking about focus and transform. And I'm going to spend a bit more time on these 2 ideas. So focus, I've just looked at, taken out a couple of existing things that was in Thomas's presentation. I haven't changed any of the words. I've just highlighted the bits that should really resonate with you. So we talk about, technical excellence is mentioned several times. Maybe 80% of our agenda is about technical excellence in product and in pricing, and we can definitely relate to that. Portfolio management and manage for profit, It's clearly part of our agenda. We're not here at the minute to chase top line. We're here to deliver the bottom line, and we're managing the accounts, doing pruning, trying to manage problematic accounts like Lloyd's, for example, and reduction in our cost. I think in operations in particular, we've done a lot of work in the last 3 years to optimize our processes and being innovative. So the focus agenda that is is driven by the group. I think we can be occasionally blamed for a number of things, but not being focused shouldn't be one of them. I think we live by this agenda. Second one is transform, and again, I've just cherry-picked a few bits from Thomas's presentation. Align our investment, that means basically prioritize, and we do a lot of that. We were talking about that this morning. Especially in your leadership team, they've spent a lot of time prioritizing. Focus on DEAL. DEAL is the Data Innovation Lab. It's this data lake they've built in Paris, and we are spearheading basically the use of the Data Innovation Lake. It doesn't work as it should, but that's a different issue. And omni-channel. What that means is that we can operate and sell our propositions through different channels. It's really important, for example, for partnerships. So recently, for example, people at Sainsbury's who were dealing with one single insurer decided to move to a panel solution to sell that through and that's exactly what we can do. So as you can see, the group agenda is relatively simple. I think it's quite clear. And I've worked for AXA in the UK, say 11, 12 years on and off, but I've never felt so aligned with the group strategy as we are now. So I thought I'd share that with you. Now I'm going to spend my last slide on us, PICP. I think I need to manage your expectations. There's no elephant in the slide that you're just about to see. I think it's time for me to move on from the elephant-orientated jokes. So I've gone for numbers because last time I spoke to you, the feedback was we'd like to see a bit more facts and numbers. So that's a simple table. I don't know if you can read it, but it's just a variance to our plan in terms of top line and bottom line. What does it say? On the motor side, which includes GTV, vans, we're 8% off our top line. Mainly because one of our partners called QuickFit decided to go direct, basically. Ogden is creating a bit of chaos in the market. Who hasn't heard about Ogden? It's allowed not to have heard about Ogden. Okay, so Ogden in a nutshell, and I think probably Neil and Dave will talk about it in their stations. Regulation has changed around how we calculate the cost of flash claims basically overnight. It's gone up suddenly in March. And that's created, we have to price for it. So it's created a lot of disruption in the market. So top line we're off, but as I said, that's not our focus. Focus is here on the bottom line. We're off plan because of Ogden. Ogden was a completely unexpected cost that was announced at the beginning of the year, not in our plan. Excluding, which I call underlying it, excluding Ogden, the more we look at it, the more we are confident that we're on probably better than our target actually. I used the word smashing our target this morning, which I regretted a bit because Neil started talking about his year-end appraisal straight away. But we're doing really well. Ogden is clouding that trend, but it'll come out eventually. So it's much greener than it looks here. On home, we're off again in terms of top line. Not that off considering the fact that we've lost our biggest partner. Well, we've parted company with our biggest partner called Prestige at the back end of last year after the plan. And we're pushing up rates quite massively. So our rates have gone up this year by about 11% year to date. But again, that's not what we're chasing. What we're chasing is this. We're still off quite significantly in terms of profitability on home. The inflation, claims inflation is just rampant, especially in escape water. You've probably heard that escape water claims, so leaks, are just all over the place and going through the roof, excuse the pun. So we've got a lot of actions in place that Caroline will talk about, and in claims as well, and Chris will touch on that a bit later. Travel, there's a bit of green here, so we've got a quite firmly green on the top line side. So we're growing, and we're growing where we want to, which is not on AVA and bank account types of deals. So credit to the team out there, all guns blazing, trying to write good business, and successfully so. The bottom line, not sure yet, it's a bit amber. There's been a lot of large loss in the first quarter, not sure yet, it's a bit still uncertain. Right, which means that overall, in terms of PICP, we're off the top line by about 4%, which is probably less than you could have expected, considering the environment. Bottom line, we're quite seriously off. Some of that, again, is overdone, probably half of that is overdone, and we're now pricing for it, and that will gradually get better. AXA Insurance, Brendan will talk about that a bit later, but we're off top line. Our friends in commercials are suffering as well. The market is very difficult, and their targets are extremely ambitious. Bottom line, we're struggling a bit, but that's mainly because of us, to be honest, and direct and commercial, their profitability is still doing really well, so they are mitigating our losses. AXA UK, even better. We're green in terms of top line. The guys in Ireland and in PPP are flying, and their profitability is very good as well, so they're even further mitigating, so we're almost back on track from an AXA UK perspective. So that's where we are in terms of numbers. On top of that, we've delivered a lot of things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but in the last 6 to 7 months, we've delivered a lot of things around, for example, in operations or in terms of IT development, pricing, and home in particular, and all the rest of it. So a lot of things are happening, which is great. The bottom line, I think, is, and that's it's becoming my catchphrase, so to speak. Stick to the plan. It's as simple as that. I realise that half of you, unfortunately, probably don't recognise this guy because you're too young. He's my hero. We have to stick to the plan. We've got a plan that is working and is going to work. Wait, it's not working yet. We have to stick to it. Try to accelerate wherever we can, so throw even more at it. So we're putting a lot of pressure on our friends in IT in particular to deliver faster, our friends in claims. But that's, so when you can accelerate, but stick to the plan. We've got a few curveballs that we need to, coming back to this wonderful sport called cricket. We've got to hit a few curveballs, stuff that are happening to us that we don't control around compliance. Have you heard of GDPR? Who hasn't heard of GDPR? You're allowed not to have heard of GDPR. Right, okay. I'm impressed. It's a new set of regulation that affects how we deal with data, basically customer data, and it's quite heavy. IDD, same thing. It's about the sales process, basically. M&S is not regulation, it's Marks and Spencer. As you know, we've lost that account, so we have to deal with that. So a few curveballs, but we're dealing with them. If you have to take anything away from today, stick to the plan. All right? That's all for me. Now we're going to hear from Brendan. I'm supposed to introduce him, but I don't need to. You've seen him in the last couple of months in London or Ipswich in particular, and he's going to talk to you about a number of things, including the bigger picture around AXA Insurance.
Hi everybody. Hello India. Oh gosh, trailing everywhere. No music. There's no music. We had a plan. I was expecting live music. No. I wouldn't wish that on you. I was expecting Dire Straits or something. You know. Mind you, most of you won't know who Dire Straits are. It's good to see you and be with you this afternoon and get the chance to talk about the business. Well, we're having an interesting year, I think, is the way you describe it. It's not the year I was expecting to have in lots of ways. If I think about the conversations I was having with Amanda back in Q4 before I arrived, when we were both going through the process of deciding whether or not I was going to come to AXA, I described the gist of the conversations as, it's great, Brendan, you know, everything's wonderful in the business, we've had this upward trend of performance, there's a couple of things going on, but you know, it's all great. And that was quite real, I think. that you know, things were in very good shape. That's kind of what Amanda and I expected to be the conditions that I would walk into when I joined in mid-February. And not unreasonably, you know, that's what we planned for, I suppose. But of course, things changed, didn't they? We heard about a potential change for the Ogden rate late in the year. And by the time I was arriving in mid-February, a few days later, I was stood on the train platform and I got a text message announcing the changed rate. And I read it and said, oh, 0.75, that could be worse. That could be a lot worse. Got on the train, phone rang, somebody said, it's terrible, isn't it? I said, not really, it's 0.75. He said, no, read the text message again. So I looked at it and saw the minus sign. I thought, ah. So Ogden has been a huge deal for us and has occupied an awful lot of our time and energy, and it's diverted us from the plan in lots of different parts of the business. On top of that, we realised that the beginnings of a problem that we thought we saw in escape of water were probably bigger and more significant than we had realised, and we rapidly needed to get on top of that. And that's a very big deal for us indeed. You know, I know that in your business you felt the pain of that considerably, and we've had to react to it. I'll come back to what we've done about all these things. And then in commercial in particular, motor AD inflation has really hurt us, and we again needed to understand it. So there were lots of things going on that we kind of weren't really ready for, and we were being tested by the combination of these things happening at once, but also the fact that they were quite intricate in terms of the way in which we needed to understand them and react to them. But you know what? I think that what it's done is galvanise the business. It's helped us do the thing we do best, which is to focus on agreeing what the right response is and then getting on with it. So if you look at Ogden, we, in our commercial business, shifted radically the position we were taking in the market. We were probably the first and the best organised business to respond in the market to that Ogden change. So we shifted rate expectations by double-digit amounts in certain parts of the business, particularly in the motor book. And our teams, you can be proud of your colleagues, because our teams out there in the branches and in that commercial business got on rapidly with making that happen. And I can tell you that the consequence of that is not just locked into those classes of business that are affected by the Ogden rate. It polluted the atmosphere with all the other classes of business too, because everything that wasn't affected by Ogden was suddenly the business that everybody wanted to get their hands on. And so it changed the dynamic in the marketplace really quite considerably indeed. And that ability to react to that situation, I think really demonstrated the quality, of the leadership in the commercial business, but of that business generally to respond. In the direct business, who were just as affected as you have been by the claims inflation's issues that we saw, they took the action, they showed the discipline and the rigour, they put the rate through, and of course we saw the consequences of that, in that the volume was affected, which has taken us off plan. But that was necessary. That discipline and that rigour, that clarity of purpose around what comes first for us, which is profit, has been at the centre of the decision making and the communication that's been necessary on the back of that. And I know that in this business, the discipline has an effect too. I know that especially given where we are with the household book, the need to act was even more painful. I know that it has consequences in the nature of the relationships and the conversations that are then necessary with the intermediaries on which we depend for our volume. So these things are not without pain and are not done lightly or easily. But I'm really, really confident that we took the right calls, that we made the right decisions to protect our profit and to react to what we saw going on. You have to manage what you see in front of you. I'm also sure that these things are not of our making in large part, and that others are affected by the same issues. Of course, Ogden, everybody's affected by that. It doesn't necessarily mean that there are no differences. There are lots of differences for how businesses are affected and how the economics wash through for them. But for us, it was very considerable. And claims inflation, if you take escape of water, there's definitely a market issue on escape of water. The extent to which we spotted it quickly enough, I think, can be questioned, and the degree to which we have therefore acted on it too. But what I can tell you is that I've been really impressed by the business's ability to respond, to accept the urgency of the action that's needed, to make those clear decisions about what that action is, and then to work with everybody that's affected by it with clear communications, and I hope that you recognise that. So all of this means that, you know, the momentum that we've had in our business was, I suppose, interrupted by those pressure points. But I'm really clear that we are getting on top of them. We took the responding action whilst we went away and investigated particularly the claims inflation issues, and I know that Chris will talk about this. But I'm confident that we're on that, and we're doing everything we can, and we'll continue to pay attention to those issues. So all of that means that the overall picture in the UK, as Laurent has said, is a good one because we've got the air cover of our sister businesses in Ireland and in PPP, but insurance right now needs to make sure that we are focused on the right things and that we are clear about the actions we're taking to address the gaps in the plan. So for us, that has been about rate, first and foremost. It's also about the interventions that are necessary on the claims inflation. The net result of all of this is that if you look at where each of the three businesses are, the commercial business, which I'd remind you, because I think we should all be very proud of this, is a business that grew at 9% last year in 2016. The next best in the market was about 3-4 points, something like that. So a significantly better performance than most, done profitably. And that momentum has continued into this year. So the commercial business is growing. It continues to grow. That's despite all of those massive headwinds with Ogden. And that's to their credit, it really is. And the profitability is holding up too. Now, that doesn't mean that that business is on plan. It's not on plan. But I think that's, you know, to be expected, given where we've been with Ogden. The good news is that we've got lots of opportunities to make sure that we recover those parts of the plan where we've lost a little bit of momentum. In the direct business, again, like you, the volume effect is felt in the numbers on the back end of the Ogden reaction. So volumes have been off. New business in particular was hit very hard indeed. And so in volume terms, that business is also off on the top line against plan. But it is a profitable business. The motor book is performing very, very well, and we'll probably take advantage of that in the coming months. And they are getting on with all the things that they need to do strategically. And then you know the story in your business. Laurent's just given you some headlines. And I would just want to echo what Laurent has said to you, that you've got to stick to the plan. And by the plan, I mean the things that you're doing to address the household profitability issues. So I want you to stay focused on that. I'm very excited actually about how much progress you have made, and I think that will pay dividends. I believe that. I also am looking forward, as I know Laurent and the management team are too, to seeing the consequences, the effect of all the incredibly hard work and tenacity and courage that you have all shown in getting on top of the motor profit problem. And I'm really confident that's going to work. And that will be fantastic because it should give you the courage to keep doing what you're doing on the household book. All right. On travel, I think we made tremendous progress. Again, really pleased with the clarity of thinking there. I think we pushed our partner in Lloyd's as hard as we needed to push them to protect our profit position and doing everything we can within the constraints we're operating within. I think we need to make sure that we keep our market-leading position in travel intact, and tendering for the right business is part of that as well. So we can live with where we are because we're part of a group and we can get some air cover for now. But we do need to make sure that we keep that discipline and rigour that we've demonstrated. We do need to recover from Ogden. We do need to get on top of our claims inflation issues and make sure that we bring the business back on track. So we've got to make sure the business performs, and we will do that. We will keep that focus because that's what AXA is good at. But then there's the other part of what we need to do, isn't there? Which is to transform the business. We know that customers' preferences and choices and expectations are shifting and increasing all the time. And we, like our competitors, are faced with that reality. Our competitors will deal with it in whatever way they'll deal with it. What I realise about AXA is that I think we have got a particular strength in the agility of what we do. I think we see the future coming, and we're confident that we have got the right prescription for that future. We need to make sure that we make the right decisions now, and we don't over-focus on performance today to the exclusion of worrying about the future. We need to make sure that we continue to adapt our business and evolve our business so that we are still at the forefront of capability in the years to come. And that's how I think, I'd frame the management challenge that I feel I've got as the leader of the business with Laurent and Gareth and John and the rest of my management team, is to do those two things at the same time. And that's a considerable challenge. But it's a really exciting one. And I can tell you that I am inspired by the fact that the business has been able to respond to the challenges that I've described to you in the way you have. I'm also deeply encouraged by the optimism and the focus that you've got. And when I talk, and I've done a bit more of this morning, to small groups of people in this business about the things that you're doing, they have all the right characteristics. They're incredibly practical. They're focused on outcomes for customers. Customer is clearly at the heart of the ethos of you as a team. And they are also commercial. They're based upon making our business better. And that will pay dividends too. So I want you to keep that going. But the key message, at the risk of repeating myself, is I do want you to stay focused on the plan that Laurent has set out for you. You're doing the right things. You'll see the evidence of that, I'm sure, with motor, and it's a repeat into household. Okay. So do be encouraged. Do feel optimistic about what's coming in the future. Our role as the leadership team is to make sure that we've got those two things happening at the same time, that we know what the actions and interventions are now, but also that we don't lose sight of the future. Now, of course, we've got a rather nice problem on our hands, which is that there are so many things that we could do to improve our business over the medium to long term. In other words, so many choices to make, so many great ideas and options to follow, that in fact there are too many. And part of what we've got to do is make choices about the investments that we make between the three big businesses, and make sure that we've got that calibration right. And that by the way, is a hard set of choices. There are lots and lots of things that we could do. We cannot afford, and we don't have the capacity to do them all. So I want to be measured in setting expectations as well, that there are some of those choices to make, and we need to make sure that all the businesses, particularly the commercial business that's been, kind of less focused upon in recent years in terms of investment, gets its share of the cake. That's important because it's a profitable, substantial business on which we all depend. So it's important that we get that balance. So that's got to happen too. But you're running a great business, and the opportunities are far bigger than the risks and the issues that you're facing. I'm convinced you're doing all the right things, and you will get the right amount of attention and the right amount of investment so that we keep the momentum that you have got going. That's my commitment to you. So stay optimistic, stay focused, and have the courage to do the things that are difficult too. I'm grateful for all your hard work, and hope that you have a great day today and a fantastic evening tonight. Thank you very much.
questions time. We've got quite a number of questions on the Slido thing. If you could put that up. So we're going to just get on with it because there are quite a few of them. First one is, I'll sort of summarise it. Pair rates, we could do more pair rates on household. Can we use external resources to do non-IHP pair rates? Caroline, where are you?
Hello.
She's here.
So pair rates, I talked about that in my presentation. We are almost about to go live for real with BGL. They are testing our new rates alongside our current rates and telling us how much share we get on the new rates versus how much share we get on our existing rates. Could we do more with some external help? I suppose we could. Laurent, could we have some?
Yes.
Fantastic, question answered.
Yes. Now, if we have to, it's something it depends a lot on what we see in the BGL experiment that Caroline has talked about. But yeah, we did a little bit of that back in December, January, but it's an option we need to consider. All right, thank you, Caroline. Now, I think the next one is for you, FCA consultation on cancer and affordability. You might want to explain a bit what it is first.
Sorry?
You might want to explain what it's about first.
Yeah, maybe. So the FCA has found some evidence that with certain conditions, and especially cancer, customers find it really hard to get cover for travel insurance. So they've put out a paper that says to the industry, this is what we see, we haven't got a clue, but the answer is, please can you tell us? And can you give us feedback on what is good practice, what you think are the problems and things like that. So we have taken the paper and we've said actually the FCA says cancer, but we can say heart conditions, lung conditions and all those kinds of things. So let's look at medical conditions in general rather than just cancer. We have used it as a prompt to have a really good look at our processes, where we said at the beginning, oh, actually, we're doing pretty good in this. We have smart team, we have it all sorted out, perfect. When we started digging, actually, it's not so good. We declined quite a few people. We probably charge, in some instances, quite a lot. So we are going to look at what we need to do ourselves, what we do with the Helix version and all those kind of things. And also what we're doing is some customer research to see what actually the real problems are out there, and also how can we relook at smart and make that even better. So we have really used this as a prompt to feedback to the FCA of what we think is best practice, what we think the problems are, but also to have a really good look at ourselves and are we really as good as we actually want to be. Because what is the problem with what we want to do? Sometimes the execution is probably not what we thought it was.
Thank you. So watch this space. It's going to be, for some reason, the government and the FCA are focusing on affordability issues and that sort of thing. So so watch this space. Next one is about home claims. I think we've covered that one with Chris. The one after that is an update on regional development. Caroline, do you want to take that one?
The regional segment is still, as ever, a really important part of our strategy. If it wasn't enough me saying that, some of the stuff that we've done this year has already delivered dividends from collaboration between the development underwriting teams and the regional teams. So on motor in the year to date, we are already 20% up on GWP for the same period last year, and on home we're about 3% up on GWP for the same period last year. It's a small team and that's not going to change, so we need to make really efficient use of that team by that collaboration with the development underwriters to ensure that they've got the team has got the knowledge and the tools and the skills to make the most of the opportunities. But also, Luke is working with the team at the moment on a strategy to to make sure that we are talking to exactly the right brokers at exactly the right time and not wasting a second anywhere else in order to make the most of the opportunities that are out there, because there are lots more of them.
Next one is, are we going to deliver the premium override solution that we've been talking about for some time? David, you might want to add to that, but we had Nick this morning in the session and we asked him the question. I think it's in the stack now for the end of the Q4 of this year. It's slipped a number of times, so we're going to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's eventually delivered, hopefully this year. Biggest challenge in 2018, and there's a similar question later around, biggest risks. My view is that biggest risk and challenge in 2018, unfortunately, is the same as in 17 and 16 and 15 and 14, and that's MI. We still haven't cracked that one. We've made some progress. I think Dave covered that in his presentation. We made some progress on motor in particular, but even that is creaking a bit. It's not. We're not getting all the data we should in a timely manner and all the rest of it. Got a lot to do on household as well, and on travel. We haven't really invested a lot. So that's still our biggest challenge, and until we've cracked it, all the rest will be, very challenging or unnecessarily challenging. Is there still an appetite for big partnership deals? So we asked Brendan the question this morning. I think what he said was we're looking into it. It's one of the strategic questions that he's asking us. It's one of the strategic questions that Paris are asking us in this year's sort of strategic review process. My personal view, as I said this morning, big and partnership don't go well together. Big partnerships are rarely successful from our point of view. I mean, define big, but typically Lloyd's or HSBC, people like that. So my personal taste is for small, medium partnership and true partnerships where we have a symbiotic relationship with the partner. TUI is probably the best example of that. Countrywide to an extent, so they're the right size and the right with people with the right attitude. And we're looking into a number of them at the minute on the travel side, and then that sort of small, medium category, and we're quite pitching for a few of them, quite hopeful. So biggest risk, I think we've covered that. What do you think our new pulse checking approach was, which is replacing Scope? I don't know yet. All I know is when I heard about Scope being ditched, I was devastated. Felt like crying, seriously. But on the right side, whatever replaces Scope, which isn't yet defined, I know we're going to smash all the targets and be top of all the league table, so I'm not worried. And to be fair, Scope was good, but was slightly old-fashioned, a bit too static once a year, and a bit too rigid in terms of its content. So I'm glad we're replacing it with something better. But I want something very quickly so that we can show off a bit. That one was skipped this morning. I missed it. What percentage of the ideas submitted to innovation programs over the last years have been implemented? So I suspect that's mainly around the innovation in ops. David, what?
Yeah, ops, and also we have a lot of company-driven innovation schemes. So to directly answer the question, I wouldn't have a clue. It's quite a hard one to pin down because we have different innovation programs at different levels across the business. What tends to happen is that we open up the doors for a set period of time, we generate a lot of ideas that come through, and those get validated and checked. Some of them go through into development, others fall by the wayside due to cost benefits or scheduling or priorities, etc. We do have some success in this space. So I think the travel wording piece, where we reduced the travel wording down to a third of what it was previously, came out of one of these sessions. In the recent collaboratory piece, we generated, that was a UK-wide innovation programme that generated 330 odd ideas, and from PICP we got first place and third place in the public vote in there as well. So we do have a fair amount of energy in that space. That's good. I think Hannah and Holly are both in the room as well, so really well done for pitching their ideas into that. I think the other bit in sort of innovation pieces is it starts to generate a culture of change and ideas coming through and feeling comfortable about challenging what we do and how we do it. So you get that initial activity, but it just cements a bit more of a cultural underlying piece where people are happy to challenge what's going on. And if I think about, again, within my own space, we've got some stuff going on in IVRs on the operations side at the moment that's sort of been a one-man mission from one of the guys in the business change area to keep progressing and pushing that through and really champion it, going through all the hurdles that we have from compliance, through legal, through partners, and that should be going live in the next couple of weeks. I know I've got a load of guys in the operation geared up, ready to prod and poke the GCV product when that fully comes over. So we've got half of it in the business now, the other half will come through in September, and we really want to challenge some of the stuff that goes on in there. And that just shows to me that, although it's not a direct answer to the question, it shows that cultural piece is coming through, and we feel quite comfortable about doing that.
Okay, thank you. I'm guessing from the way the questions were, it's a slightly loaded question around are we really following up on ideas. And it's, sometimes you might have reasons to get a bit cynical about these things, but the latest, the UK one, the collaboratory thing that David alluded to, I think Amanda is really serious about that one. So I was talking to her last week about it. So we've gathered, yes, as David said, around 300. Relatively small number for us, about 15 or something like that, 20. But amongst which the number 1 and 3 in terms of public vote. Now the process, I asked Emily about that, is that I think the top 20 have been selected, including the 3. By the panel, and then they're gonna go through a selection process and sort of business case kind of thing. And I think from memory, she said they were gonna sort of narrow it down to something like 8, and then go heavy on those 8 and really try and deliver them and keep us up to date, that kind of thing. But I'll give Amanda's feedback that there's a degree of maybe a bit of skepticism, which is understandable. But she's very serious about it. The next one we'll skip. We'll come back to at the end, if you don't mind. Can you scroll down a bit? Grenfell House, changing a lot of multiple blocks being built with substandard material. Have we had to change in lot of multiple blocks? I don't know is the honest answer to that. I know the commercial guys have been challenged to have a look at their portfolio and whether they've got any exposure, and they're in the middle of doing that. But I don't know how far they are. In personal lines, Caroline, we don't tend to, we don't insure blocks. So it's not that relevant to us, but commercial is a big question. So
I can tell 10 years ago head office were walking away from that stuff as fast as they could.
Yeah.
It's been part of our underwriting footprint to avoid it. It's just whether things have snuck in here and there. It's
housing associations and stuff like that, yes. Yeah, no, it is. So I know they're doing some work around that, but I would be surprised if we found a lot of risk of that nature. As you can imagine, the group the day after came to us and said, "Oh, how many of these things have you got in your portfolio?" Sort of thing. So if we scroll down, is that the last one? Okay. I'm going to open to the floor, and I'll come back to that one at the end. Any burning question that we haven't answered? No? You sure?
I've asked this before. David Oliver's quite key to what we're doing. Are we looking to get a controlling stake in that?
It's a question we're asking ourselves. We've signed a long-term contract with them. Is it 7 years? Back, was it last year or the year before? So we've got a long-term contract with them. But yes, at some point I'd like to de-risk a bit our relationship with them. I'd be amazed if they had other plans. I mean, plans to move away from us. It wouldn't be in their interest at all. But yes, it's very much a concern, and even more so once we've cracked the DOA-ification of all our book, basically, our front end in particular. Anything else? Yes.
I'd really like to know, are we going to be reviewing our resource and school change team? Because I know that we're really struggling to deliver on a lot of changes for partners. So I just wanted to know if they were...
On the IT side, you mean? Yeah, where we're I thought we had a question about that actually, but I didn't see it. Yes, we're struggling. I'm a bit puzzled about that because every time we have a prioritisation committee, we had a big one about 2 weeks ago with Matt and Nick and Brendan, and I raised that, small change. I don't think Jean is in the room anymore, is she? Maybe Graham is in the room, I don't know. Yeah. And the response from both direct, from Gareth and from John, was small changes going really smoothly in our areas. Absolutely no issue with that. We package small change with other big bits when we've got downtime and that kind of thing, which we've been talking to IT about for some time now. It was getting a bit better, but still it looks like we're not using that process as well as others. Graham, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think it probably split into two as well. We've obviously got the process for actually making coding changes as such, but there's also the elements of data services as well, the work around that things get held up in as well. So from the point of view as where the portfolio I would like it to work is that the resources that are allocated under PICP, we should have the capacity alongside the projects that we're doing to be able to deliver a small change. Now, there is a prioritisation committee that Caroline Nicholson is going to be running. Unfortunately, Caroline's on holiday at the moment, but when she comes back, her priority job is to get everyone together to get that prioritised list, and then we will be having, instead of a list of potentially 80 things there, that there's not really any real order to it in the sense of agreement between all the parties, that will have that top 5, top 10 that will then work through, it will be triaged, it will be understood, and then we should be picking them off as we go through, but there will be hopefully a clearer list and more buy-in from all sides once we've undertaken that process, which I'm hoping that will be kicked off 17th, we commence the 17th, which is next week.
So the very short answer to that is no, we're not going to get any more resources. It's a finite amount of resources, and you've heard Brendan's subliminal message around, well, we need to invest more in commercial because they've been neglected in the last few years. So if anything, it might get even a bit worse from our point of view. So we'll have to use that sort of process even more smartly, unfortunately. Anything else? So the final one I skipped because I wanted all of your leaders to give their views on it. Where was it? What are you most excited about the rest of this year, and what makes you nervous? I'm not a nervous kind of guy at all, but I'm quite excited about a number of things. One of them is I was mentioning this morning. Every month now, I go to the reserving team. I used to dread talking to them. Because they always had bad news for us. Every month I go to them, well, where are my motor development curves? I want to see our curves. Where's me curves? Because they get better and better every month. So Sylvie this morning said, today we'll get our new June curves. So I'm very excited about that because it's showing that all the motor investment, the time, the effort, the focus, the stress is paying off. It's taken a while, but it's now working, and every month it's working a bit better. So I think that's very rewarding, Neil, Dave. And it's a vindication that what we're doing, we're applying the same logic and methods to home, is going to work as well. I've got no doubt about that. It's just a matter of time, but it's going to work. That's me. David, what are you excited about?
For me, it would be how some of the changes that we've put in place this year start to embed for the latter part of the year and into the outer years. So things like our speech functionality and how we start to use that and really drive change within the business through that tool. And then the doors it opens and the enablers it opens to other changes, and just how the operation will evolve in the outer years.
Yeah. I say that there are a lot of things I'm excited about. Speech analytics is we've done a lot with what we could, but the list of things we can do with it is absolutely endless. It's just a matter of, prioritising basically. Claire, you want to go next?
Yeah, probably a couple of things for me. So first of all the development programs that we've put in place was just, and how much we've improved them, we're really going to start to see the results of that later in this year. And also just the Open Smart and where that's going, that's really exciting as well.
Angela, didn't see you at the back.
I'm really excited about Household IHP, but I continue to be a little bit nervous as we see the 3 implementations of Fredry, and just like to be confident that nothing wobbles on that and look forward to the next couple of partners using it.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Yes, firstly, proving to Neil this evening the sporting prowess of the pricing.
Okay.
So more importantly, really, I'm really excited to see the new household peril models go live. Lots of brilliant effort across a number of different teams who have all come together. I'm confident. We need to learn a little bit once they go live, but really excited to see that happen.
So I guess Caroline has mentioned that in her presentation early on, but next week probably we should start learning useful lessons about the pilot with BGL, so that's very exciting. Caroline? Or Nell? Nell, you're closer, maybe?
I think I'm most excited about the very distinct possibility of signing up some new partners, because for me that is real evidence of all the good things that we have done, that we've been able to showcase to those partners and show that we are relevant and the best in the market. So that is a really nice place to be.
Thank you. Caroline?
I'm nervously excited about the same things as Angela and David. So seeing all the fruits of our labours in action when the new peril rates go live and when IHP goes live at the end of September, and even more excited about the fact that I'm going to celebrate with a new handbag and a bottle of champagne.
Self-funded. Neil over there? At least the bag.
Look, I'm looking forward to making that a big part of our portfolio, making a big success of that, grabbing onto that. And I'm especially looking forward to going on holiday. And being.
Yeah. Which is next week. Of course, Neil, of course. Right. I hope today was useful. I hope you've learned or you understand a bit better where the group comes from strategically, and where our strategy, I think, fits in very nicely with the group strategy. I hope that was clear. I hope you understand a bit better, where Brendan is coming from, and the way and the fact that he's very supportive of us and buys into our strategy and our plan. I hope you understand a bit better what other teams do across PICP, teams you're not necessarily familiar with, and potentially where you can collaborate with them a bit better or a bit more. So I hope that was useful. And if you have to take away one thing from today, actually you'll probably take away 2 things. One thing I know you'll take away and you'll remember, because I will. That's Wakar's jumper. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Is it red? Is it pink? Is it orange? Am I going blind? Do I need to see a doctor? I don't know. Right. So, and the other thing you'll remember, hopefully, is our catchphrase now. Officially, it's 4 words. Remember it? Stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. It's a good plan. It's working. Just need a bit more time. And as long as we stick to it, we will deliver what we need to deliver. So thanks very much for coming. I'll see you at 5 o'clock. We've got a lot going on, including a challenge between pricing and motor. I'm looking forward to that. But a lot of music and a barbecue and all the rest of it. And the weather looks pretty good. Sorry? It's a cash-only bar. All right, thank you very much. See you a bit later.